have two very interesting pictures you should see. On the left, you can see the complex neural network you can find inside your brain. And on the right, you can see the universe, displayed as a cosmic web with all the connections between galaxies. Such similarities between the brain and the universe motivated researchers to study this apparent random relatedness. But once they began studying this, they started finding more and more similarities, begging the question, why does our universe look just like the structure of a brain?
The human brain contains 86 billion nerve cells and a neuronal network formed by these cells. In contrast, our observable universe contains a cosmic web consisting of approximately 100 billion galaxies. Some similarities in how both networks are structured have been discovered. For example, the most and least dense parts of the neuronal networks in our brains differ by a factor of exactly 100, or 1 micrometer versus 100 micrometers. Shockingly, the same range and density has been observed in the universe. The most and least dense parts of the cosmic web also differ by a factor of 100, or 5 million light-years versus 500 million light-years. This degree of similarity is hardly ever observed in the natural world, among the structures of different objects with a web pattern. The researchers who published this research investigated the nodal points of the neuronal network of the brain compared with those of the cosmic web. Their analysis showed 4 to 5 axons extending from each nodal point in a nerve cell, and around 4 galaxies connected to each nodal point in the cosmic web. Even more interestingly, if the entire cosmic web network were to be used to store information, we would be able to store approximately 4.3 petabytes of information. In contrast, the human brain can theoretically store 2.5 petabytes of information. 4.3 petabytes and 2.5 petabytes might first seem to be quite a difference. However, even a slight difference in the structure of the neuronal network of the brain can result in an exponential difference in the amount of information that can be stored. Therefore, the 2.5 petabytes of the brain and the 4.3 petabytes of the universe are actually extremely close. It's as if the cosmic web is a structure meant to store the amount of information that a human-like intelligent being would accumulate over the course of its life. Furthermore, moisture accounts for 77% of the mass of the brain, while dark energy accounts for 70% of the mass of the universe. There are also many other similarities. The fact that the human brain resembles the universe so closely seems to suggest something deep. This will surely be the subject of future research.
Vaza and Folletti also found that these networks are more similar to each other than other physical or biological structures, such as tree branches, water turbulence, or the dynamics of cloud formation. All of these systems had a fractal organization. Fractal patterns have a property of self-similarity. For example, they repeat themselves completely or partially irrespective of scale. On the contrary, the universe looks very different on a smaller scale than on a larger one. Galaxies don't look at all like the cosmic web they create, so the brain ceases to look like a neural network when observed at different scales. Based on these results, researchers conclude that similar network configurations can arise from the interaction of completely different physical processes, resulting in the same levels of complexity and self-organization, despite significant differences in scale.
So these video clips that you just watched, which I will be crediting, by the way, towards the end of this episode, if you want to watch it online. These video clips are based on the article that was published in the Open Access Frontiers in Physics journal, published in November of 2020. The authors are Franco Vaza, an astrophysicist, and Alberto Folletti, a neurosurgeon. The title of the article is The Quantitative Comparison Between the Neuronal Network and the Cosmic Web. And what I want to do next is just briefly read to you a section of an article that was published in Times Magazine by Sabine Hosenfelder, who's a physicist. The article she wrote is titled, "Maybe the Universe Thinks, Hear Me Out." And here's what she has to say in the article. Our universe contains about 200 billion galaxies. These galaxies are not uniformly distributed. Under the pull of gravity, they lump into clusters, and the clusters form superclusters. Between these clusters, galaxies align along thin threads, the galactic filaments, which can be several 100 million light years long. Galactic clusters and filaments are surrounded by voids that contain very little matter. Altogether, the cosmic web looks somewhat like a human brain. To be more precise, the distribution of matter in the universe looks a little like the connectome, the network of nerve connections in the human brain. Neurons in the human brain too form clusters, and they connect by axons that are long nerve fibers which send electrical impulses from one neuron to another. The resemblance between the human brain and the universe is not entirely superficial. It has been rigorously analyzed in a 2020 study by the Italian astrophysicist Franco Vazza and neuroscientist Alberto Folletti. They calculated how many structures of different sizes are in the human brain's connectome and in the cosmic web, and reported a remarkable similarity. Brain samples on scales below 1 millimeter and a distribution of matter in the universe up to about 300 million light years they found are structurally similar. Could it be then that the universe is a giant brain in which our galaxy is merely one neuron? Maybe we are witnessing its self-reflection while we pursue our own thoughts. So the section of the article I just read to you by Sabine Hosenfelder, as well as the video clips that you saw earlier, these are both based on the papers that were published by Alberto Folletti and Franco Vazza. And there seems to be a similarity between the human brain and the cosmic web. Why is that? Well, if you think about it, if my brain is a representation of the activity of my mind, your brain is a representation of the activity of your mind, which means that physical matter as it is represented, and I've been saying this in my past episodes as well, what you see as physical matter is a representation of an underlying activity. So our brains in this case is a representation of the underlying activity of mind. So why is it not possible then that the activity of the larger mind is presenting itself as the physical universe, as stars and galaxies? So is it possible that we are living in a thinking, conscious universe? There is something like to be the universe, just as there is something like to be you or me. Right? So if you take a slice of the human brain and look at it under a powerful microscope, you see neurons that form these structures and the way they come together that look very similar to how galaxies in the universe come together along these long filaments of dark matter that bring all of these galaxies together into a sort of a web of some sort that look structurally similar to the human brain. Or I should say the neuronal network in the human brain. Is it because the universe is thinking just like us? And our minds are in fact sourced from the larger mind. Now, of course, a scientist wouldn't say that. But it makes me wonder if they are thinking along the same lines.